Yeah, so like for those of you, I have hair in my mouth. Hey, how's it going? How's life? My name is Sophia. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. So that was too much. That was too much. We're gonna do that again. Hey, how's it going? How's life? My name is Sophia. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I am going to be doing the final installment of my recent reads. Yeah, so from here on out, I'm going to be trying to do monthly wrap-ups. I don't know how well that's gonna go for me, but we're gonna make an attempt. The first book I have to talk about was a bit of a disappointing book for me, and that is going to be The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. In this story, you are following two main perspectives. The first one is Malini, who is a princess that has been exiled by her brother into this decrepit old tower that has hidden magic. The second perspective you are following is Priya, who is working as a servant for Malini, but the magic within this old building keeps calling to her, but she has to ignore it for reasons. Like I said before, this was one of my more disappointing reads of this year. In terms of the positives, I will say that I found the writing style to be beautiful as always. I think Tasha Suri is really good at writing poetic lines without being overbearing. I also found the world and the magic to be intriguing. This is a soft magic system, and I think that soft magic systems is where Tasha Suri thrives. And I really wanted to know more about the magic system. I was lured into it, and I thought that aspect of the story was well done. The political machinations are another part of the story where Tasha Suri thrives. As I said before, Malini is an exiled princess, so she is seeking revenge against her brother, who is a fundamentalist religious zealot, and so that adds an interesting dynamic to the story. And there is a lot of potential for the world and the politics to expand in further books. With that being said, there were quite a few things that I didn't really like as much about this book. I feel like the biggest gripe I do have with this story is my lack of attachment for the characters. I didn't really care for Malini or Priya or any of the side characters. Something about them kind of felt just a bit one-dimensional and flat for me, which is disappointing because Empire Sand is one of my favorite books that I've read, and I absolutely loved and adored every single one of those characters. Another issue is that this book is pitched as morally gray, and besides Malini, I don't really see Priya as a morally gray character. She's more of a goody two-shoes character who has a mysterious past, but other than that, there was nothing morally gray about her. Another gripe I had was the romance. Now, if you've read Empire Sand, you know that the slow burn in that book is just masterfully done. The angst I just couldn't get enough of. This felt just a bit insta-lovey to me, which was kind of disappointing because the whole reason I picked up this book was for the slow burn sapphic romance, but that isn't what I get at all. The moment they lay eyes on each other, there's like this infatuation with one another. I don't know how I feel about Priya, to be honest. Priya falls head over heels for this person who is morally gray, but I don't understand why. Like, the author doesn't give us enough reasons to root for these characters and for their romance, which was disappointing to say the least. I am intrigued to continue on with this series, but if I'm being quite honest, if I decide to continue on with this series, it won't be for the romance, it won't be for the characters, it'll most likely be for Tasha Suri's writing style, her world building, and like her magic system. I ended up giving this a 2.5 stars, and I rounded it up to 3 stars on Goodreads. I do have a more in-depth review I did on Goodreads. If you want to know my more in-depth thoughts, I will leave that review linked down below. My battery died. The angle might be slightly different. What else was new? The next book I have to talk about is A Dead Djinn in Cairo by P. Djeli Clark. Now, I don't really have much to say about this. It is a novella. It's a fairly quick read. I highly recommend picking it up. In this story, we are following our main character Fatma, who is a detective living in an alternative 1912 Egypt where magic is common knowledge and it's weaved into the fabric of this world. One day, Fatima is called to investigate the murder of a jinn, and the story goes from there. It's a super short synopsis. I feel like going in not knowing much is like the best possible thing you could do for this novella, because it will surprise you. I really loved Fatima as a main character. She's level-headed, she's smart, and she doesn't give up even when people are saying, sis, give it up, pack it up, it's time to go. I also really loved Siti as a main character, and I adored their banter with each other. I will say that it's very short-lived, but I'm hoping in other books that we get more of their dynamic with each other. The writing style is so lush and beautiful, and it's very immersive and atmospheric. The writing style and the way P. Djeli Clark builds the world is the strongest aspect of this story. Like, I felt as though I was in 1912 Cairo. The setting is also fairly unique. This is a fantasy novella, and oftentimes fantasy sometimes can fall into this trap of a particular setting and it can feel repetitive. But I found that the setting was unique and it was a breath of fresh air, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the story. There really isn't much more I can say because it's a novella and it's so short, but I really enjoyed my time reading it. And I'm excited to continue on with the series. The only critique I have of this novella is I wanted more. Like, which honestly isn't a bad critique. I gave A Dead Djinn in Cairo 4 out of 5 stars. I am super excited to continue on with the series, and I highly recommend picking it up. The next book I have to talk about, I don't really know how to talk about it. Not because it's bad, but because it's so freaking good. And that is going to be The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. In the first book, you are following our main character Esun, who comes home to find that her daughter has been kidnapped and her son has been murdered by her husband. So she goes on a quest to find them and kill her husband. In this world, there are these apocalyptic events known as fifth seasons. So not only does Esun have to find her daughter, but she has to find her daughter while it's the end of the world. There isn't much I can say about this because it is the third in a series, but just know that I loved and adored this book so freaking much. If I were to describe this book, this series in general, in one sentence, it would be a complete mind fuck. There are things that Jemisin foreshadows in the first and second book that you don't think is important, but come together full circle in this third book. And when it does, your mind is blown. The way N.K. Jemisin utilizes the second person perspective is just genius, in my opinion. I've never seen an author play with different perspectives in the way that she does, so it offers something that's fairly unique to this story. This story also delves further into themes of oppression as well as environmentalism. So N.K. Jemisin takes you on a journey to the past to see how the actions of the people living in the past affect the people thousands of years later. And the way she brought that together was amazing. And the way N.K. Jemisin explores themes of environmentalism and humanity's greed for more than they need was excellently explored in this book. As I said before, we get flashbacks, and I loved the flashbacks so much. They added something to the story. I feel like the 5th season and the Obelisk Gate gives the readers a lot more questions than answers, and I feel like this one answers a lot of the questions that you may have had from the first 2 books. I feel like N.K. Jemisin gives the audience enough info to piece together the puzzles of this story, while also leaving just enough questions to keep the audience engaged and interested. The world building as per usual is incredible, amazing, show-stopping, wonderful. Like, I don't know what else I can say to get this point across.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same.
The ending. I don't know what I can say. The ending was heartbreaking and satisfying at the same time, but also I want more. I feel like this series has the potential to be expanded into so much more than just 3 books. I don't know if N.K. Jemisin has plans to do that, but if she did, honestly, I would read anything she wrote in this world. But yes, amazing, wonderful. This is such a good book. Like this, honestly, this might be one of my best books of this year. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. If you have not picked up this series yet, baby, what are you doing? I need you to get on this. Another thing, I feel like this is the type of series you can reread 100 different times, and each time you read it, you pick up on something new or you take away new themes from it. And honestly, I feel like this is definitely a series I'll be rereading for the rest of my life. I hope I didn't hype it up too much for you guys, but also it's just that good. The next book I have to talk about is going to be She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. In this story, there are 2 siblings. One is a no-name girl and the other is Chu Chong Ba. One day their father takes them to get their fortunes read, and they find out that Chu Chong Ba is destined for greatness and the girl is destined for nothingness. One day they are attacked by bandits and Chu Chong Ba gives in to despair and dies, and the no-name girl takes her brother's name and decides to follow his path to his destiny. This is described as Song of Achilles meets Mulan. I've never read Song of Achilles, so do with that information what you will. I feel like in terms of Chu's character development, she felt one-track minded to me, which was understandable because she does come from poverty, and Shelley Parker Chan makes it clear from the very beginning what her motivations are. and the lengths she's willing to go in order to achieve what she believes is her destiny. Some people might not like that particular type of character, but personally I found it fascinating and interesting to read from her perspective. In terms of the other characters, every single one of them is morally gray. As a matter of fact, I would consider this society as a whole to be a morally gray society. I found that at certain times some of the characters were downright unlikable, which I don't mind unlikable characters. I love morally gray characters, which is one of the reasons why I enjoyed this book as much as I did. Uyang is another character in this book. He is a eunuch, I think that's how you pronounce it, but as a result he's constantly emasculated throughout this series. And it's interesting, his dynamic versus Chu's dynamic, because Chu is biologically born a girl and takes on the role of the man, and so they were almost like two sides of the same coin, and I really enjoyed that dynamic. Another character that really stuck out to me was Ma. She is this precious, too good for this world type of character. While everyone's being all morally gray and evil, she's just over here singing Kumbaya and trying to be all peaceful. I'm interested to see how her character arc goes, because I feel like her character could potentially be corrupted in the future. I'm not gonna say more than that, but if you read the book, you know what I'm talking about. And so like, I'm really interested in seeing where she goes as a character. This story deals heavily in themes of destiny and gender identity. So throughout this story, Shelley Parker Chan is constantly asking the audience, what does it mean to be destined for greatness, and if it's at all possible to avoid your destiny. In terms of gender identity and exploration, because Chu was born biologically female and took on her brother's identity, she's constantly questioning herself and what it means to be masculine. And you could see throughout the story how it takes a heavy toll on her mental and emotional health trying to figure out those aspects of her identity. It was so interesting to me because in terms of destiny, Chu was 100% sure of who they were in that aspect of themselves. But in terms of gender, they were very confused throughout the story. And by the end of the story, they don't have the answers to how they identify, which oftentimes is the reality for many people questioning their gender identity. I also thought how they explored gender identity through Uyang was interesting. Because he's a eunuch, he is often feminized within the story, and femininity is used as a weapon against him. As I said before, Chu and Uyang were just two sides of the same coin. This story starts off in the middle of a war, and so I would say that this first book is very heavy with the military strategy as well as the political machinations. So if you like those parts of stories, I feel like you would really enjoy this book. In terms of the magic system, I will say that the magic system is fairly light to the point where it's almost non-existent. It's there, but it doesn't play a major role within this story. I feel like if you are a fantasy beginner and you like historical fiction, I feel like this would be a good place to start because it's heavy on the historical influences but also lighter on the magic system. Overall, I gave this a 3.5 stars, rounded up to 4 stars. I enjoyed my time reading it, and I am excited to pick up the next book in the series. The final book I have to talk about is actually a short story, and that is going to be The Angel of Khan el Khalili by P. Djeli Clark. In this story, you are following our main character who goes to the market in order to find an angel. That is all I can say about this book without spoiling it, because it is a short story. I am really enjoying the Dead Jinn universe right now. There's just something magical about P. Djeli Clark's writing style that I absolutely love and adore. And the way that he brings together angels, jinn, and other magical creatures within this world is just amazing. There's nothing really I can say because it's a short story. If you want, you can read it for free on Tor.com. I will leave a link down below for you guys to check out if you decide to read it. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend. The goal is to read The Haunting of Tram Car 015 and then hopefully get to A Master of Jinn fairly soon. That was it for today's video. Have you guys read any of these books? Feel free to comment down below. Let me know some of your thoughts. If you've reached the end of the video, feel free to comment the earth emoji for the stone sky. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you guys soon with another video, and until then, I will see you soon. Bye.